Hey, I'm Naya. Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm joined by Easy, and he's the first player, like he's the number one ranked player on Dueling Book, and he decided to talk prank kits with me today. A lot of just prank kit stuff. So we're gonna show you his 60 card build, which is very unconventional but very interesting. So make sure to stick around. Hello, welcome to the channel.
Hey guys, what's up? Glad to be here. I'm glad to share this deck list with you guys, and hopefully you guys get some good information out of this. I know I rant a bit, but hopefully you guys enjoy it. But anyways, I guess to the deck. So obviously, I'll just kind of give an like overview of how I structured it. Um,
Cool. Do you mind,
so
by the way, sorry to cut
obviously,
you off, but do you mind if I ask any questions in the middle and everything? Because
oh
I'm,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
if
no
you looked at
problem.
my channel at all, I'm a huge Blanket fan. So I want to know everything. So
Oh yeah, no
yeah,
problem,
so
no
if I
problem at
cut you
all.
off and ask a lot of questions, please don't mind that.
Okay.
Cool.
Um, so we have the three starters each. You have to run all three of them at
Mm-hmm.
three each because it's 60 cards. So you want to be able to like get a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have the three Eclipse. Eclipse has been so freaking underrated this format. Like I knock my head against the wall. Um, it it's a board breaker card for like okay, so for Sword Soul it puts everything face down. So either they have to, it forces their Baron, their Omni Negate, or it just puts everything face down if they opted for the Worm only special first turn, which is ridiculously good because it also like it turns off their blackout. So they have no mons, they have like their blackout's dead,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they have a droplets or imp face down, and if they're lucky, they have the nib in order to like stop from being absolutely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and it hit bird up. It hit the Omni Negate for bird up. Uh, it was at least forced the Herald discard. It literally worked in every deck. Flounderies. It turned off the Penguin. So it's just such a good card. And we have the three Book of Moon. Again, it's like a very good utilization of going first and going second cards. I could always like drop it on my opponent to force their Omni Neg or force the DPE to activate or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
was a really good card. I think the books overall were just really underrated this format
So
for whatever
how did you
reason.
come up with the inclusion of that? Or sorry, I should ask, when you came up with the entire idea of 60 card prank kit, like did you just want to fill up all of the other flex spots with things to help you break boards? Or why did you even go for the 60 card variant and then in consequence to that
So
choose like
there
things
were a
like books
couple
and stuff like that?
reasons. Yeah, no, there were a couple reasons. One, I when I played 40, and I'm not saying 40 is bad, don't get me wrong at all. Like it's a great,
Mm-hmm.
great like Prank Kids is a great deck no matter how you run it.
Right.
Or I shouldn't say no matter how you run it, but it's a great deck at 40. Still,
Yeah.
the only thing I came across was that I would open up a lot of starters, and the only consistency card in order for me to go off was if I drew the poly or the pandy.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times I felt like if I lost dice roll and I still had the starters and the poly in hand,
Mm-hmm.
even if I had that, I was still losing because uh, the I wasn't turning off their like let's say like they like I'm just gonna do a deck like Bird Up, for example. Like they have the Appaloosa, so if you have the fusion and the pranks in hand, and you go and you try to summon out Rocket, they're just gonna spam neg Appaloosa, and they're gonna spam neg the return their the Lucris XYZ. They're gonna just return your special summons to hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just finding myself like in this quandary of like, okay, I mean, sure, it's like great to have that Pandy and two starters, but at the same time, it was so easy for them to out. Like, that's just what my experience was if I lost the dice roll. And so I'm like, I need to essentially, pranks in essence are one card starter combo decks. So like, you need to just draw a prank and you can go off. I don't want to get too technical here, but like, if you run the logarithmic calculator in terms of like how many starters you need to run in 60.
I wanted to ask you that. I'm so glad you brought that up because I didn't want to sound too technical, but I wanted to ask you if you were using like the calculator and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was using that calculator.
Cool. Okay.
And so going first, I have 84. If I include Metaverse and Mines, which are not bad because a lot of the times I could interrupt my opponent to the point he couldn't OTK and I could drop the mine. So if I include that, then we're getting to like 93%. But going second, if you draw 6 and you include the mine and Metaverse and like all the other cards, you're looking about like 93. So it was like, most of the time, like, you know, out of all my games I was playing, I was pretty much opening up pretty consistently. So about every like 0.5 out of 10 games, I just, you know, had a bad hand. But I didn't find that like too terrible because, you know, I think number one, every deck at some point has bad hands regardless, and two, like, even if I did open a starter, it, like, a lot of decks do open their starters, but that's all they have. And so like, if they lose the dice roll, they're just like they move on to next game essentially.
Right.
So I don't know. I just found the consistency, like, I think obviously if there was an option for 2 more starters in the deck, it would be perfect. So if I could have 20, that math would just work out really well. But unfortunately, I'm stuck with 18. And I say 18 because I'm including the field. I'm including like terraforming, set rotation, things like that.
Yes.
So, you know, so, and then the other reason why I ran it was because I really, really like the third Roxy's, and I can't do that
so
in
random.
40, like, you know. So I don't know, like in grind, I just realized that I want to be able to add off as many things off my dodo as possible, and I want to keep that going. I also want to keep having options to bring on my engine. Also, the other reason was this was before Desires was hit, but I cannot run Desires in 40 cards. So with my luck, I don't know how people do it, but when I try to play Desires in 40, I'm banishing everything.
I know what you mean.
You know?
Yeah.
And so in 60, I didn't really have to worry about that at all. Like, the only thing that I kind of worried about was banishing both pranks because, you know, it just sucks because I'll get into like the mind loop later, but you know, that just kind of sucked overall for recycling. But those are the 3 reasons, and it just kind of worked. Like, I don't advocate for 60 card decks across the board, obviously, because 60 card decks really only work in 1 card starter combo decks. So Zodiacs can run 60 cards, Pranks can run 60 cards, especially with Meow 3. Pranks could easily run 60 cards. And then certain decks like Chaos Thunders, D-Links, things like that can definitely run like 60 cards. But don't go around like trying to build like 60 card Sword Soul or like 60 card. It's just, you're gonna have a pretty rough time.
Don't build Sword Soul overall, but you know.
Don't build Sword Soul overall, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but it just kind of worked out for me. So
How
it
did
was
your
great.
grind overall look now that we're at the end of this TV format? Obviously, you're the number one place, which is dope. And did you like run the 60 card pranks the entire time, or what happened?
Yeah, the entire time. And the funny
Nice.
thing is like I again, I'm not mentioning names here, but like there's teams like I've sort of been like, because just life gets in the way. Like for the past year I haven't really been competitive, but there's like teams out there that like obviously are trying to test on DB and things like that, and I run into them and it's like this whole team got on prank kids, right? And I don't know, for some reason they kind of always had an issue with me, and
Was it because you're the 60 card prank kid player on DB?
yes, I think that's the reason why. They're
That's
like,
weird.
your list is bad, you need to fix right, whatever. And so they just go on. But I like finally, like, there was this one last game I played, and I was at a point where it's like literally your team is like 7-0 versus me, not even joke. And it's not a bad team. It's like they constantly can't, like, they put their prank deck against my prank deck and they just can't beat it. And I'm like, and I don't like, I'm not the kind of guy to like bring up drum. Like, I come in there, say GL, GG, like I just want to have a fun time, right? And it's like at some point during the match, it's like, you need to fix your list. And I'm like, you need to stop losing to it. Like,
Oh,
I understand
no.
that, it's like
The prank it beef. That's wild.
And so it's like at the end of the day, it really comes all down to just math and ratios. And if you run, I don't know off the top of my head, but like, let's say you run 12 starters and 40. Well, that's the same thing as running 18 and 60. It's the exact same math.
Yeah,
But
of course.
the only difference is that why you can't run 60 cards in certain decks is because the math gets kind of scratchy, because a lot of decks rely on another card in order to like go off. People really don't like that I play mine, but I
mean,
especially with the loop. I'm sure you know about the loop with prank kids with mine, and it's just
right.
Again, like
I do, but would you mind explaining it just for the sake of if anybody doesn't know it? So
yeah,
everybody's on the
definitely.
same
So
page.
the loop with prank kids, the loop with prank kids with mine is that. So let's say you have your mine on the field, right, and they have 2 mons or something like that. You're not going to do this if they just have DP, because the moment you summon, they're just going to activate DP and pop your
obviously.
Mine, whatever. So a lot of times they have 2 mons. You summon lamps. You use lamps to get out Meow, burn for 500, get out your other prank, and then use those 2 pranks. So you get out fans first. And so you use Meow and fans, dump fusion, and add pranks off Dodo. And you stop there because you don't want to trigger Nibiru. So Nibiru. So that's 4 summons, and then you use your Dodo to tribute off and add back, the fusion and lamps, and then you put pranks down and recycle, right? And so after that, you should have, depending on your hand, it may take a turn or 2 more, but depending on your hand, you should be able to go for rockets next turn. So you fusion off lamps and another prank kid, doesn't really matter which, and go summon rockets and go rockets chain link 1, lamps chain link 2, whatever the other prank is chain link 3. And so now lamps burns for 500. Now you can attack directly with rockets. So now every turn, now you're in this cycling loop of every turn you're dealing 1500. So after the end of like 6 turns, you win the game, because you keep tributing off your dodos, avoiding Nibiru, and you have no monsters on field. So that's sort of the loop with the prank kids in mind. Obviously, people take offense to it, and I can't, people ask me all the time, like, mine is so dumb, and I'm like, oh no, I completely agree with you. Like, I'm not sitting here saying like,
of course, no, it is.
I
No,
have
it's
no
a
arguments
horrible
against
card,
it.
but like, if combo decks and stuff like Dragon Link or Joytron or Birds used to be that, or whichever deck can go off, or Phantom Knights, and make like a gigantic board of 10 negates, and then they sit back and look at you like, okay, then I'll activate mine because it's fair. It's basically
Yes.
a going second card, but people don't look like bad at Dark Ruler no more. They just look bad at Mystic Mine, and I get that because of the like people surrounding it and some of the like Mind Burn players and stuff like that. I get that, but still, at the end of the day, if used properly or like in a competitive deck, it's just a going second card. That's all there is
Yes.
to it.
And no, it's such a good point you bring up, because here's the thing I always said is that you calling Protoss Earth so I just lose is your own version of mine. Like my mind just takes like 20 turns longer in order to kill you. You just did it first turn.
Right.
Like I there's no difference between me not being allowed to play because you have, your proto lock or your bird up oath omni hand trap. But like it's like
Yeah.
that's the state we're in. The only reason that I think people complain about it is one of the points you bring up is like the community surrounding Mystic Mind Burn, which is where Mystic Mind sort of got its, fame. And then obviously the fact it takes so long. I don't want to get too off a tangent, but just really quick, it's like I was talking with who's it? So bad at names. Oh, Mega Capital G. I was talking about this with him, and he like there's such a rift that's happened because of the behavior of sort of especially like unfortunately when you get like high ranked players just kind of have for whatever reason act toxic or whatever and it's developed this kind of like rift in the community between how people view people who play DB versus IRL versus Yugi tubers and things like that. And I just feel like, I was in a game once and like literally all I said was GL, and he's like, "Oh no, you're too high to say GL. Have some self-respect, like blah blah blah, like you're just your deck is." And then he just went off. And like there's no need for all the negativity. Like people just need to like I think just have fun, enjoy the game, and like just if you lose, you lose. Everyone loses. Everyone bricks. Everyone just has bad. God, there's been days in a row where I'm just like losing day in and day out for whatever reason. I'm just like I'm tilting or whatever it is. It's like if people just took that a little like just non-personally or whatever it may be, I love to see like just good sportsmanship. It's just nice to have when you're going into these games. So
especially coming from you being the number one player, you must have encountered a lot of toxic people by the amount of time you spend on DB, I'm sure, because a lot of toxic people can be
it's
found
unfortunate
on DB.
too, because it's like I have these people like, and they'll come and ask me questions, and I'm so glad to just help, like what do you need help with on this deck, or do you have ideas for this? I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, every time I ask other people who are like in your rank, they always give me like these like just responses that are essentially toxic. And I'm like, it's just sad, because it's like we want people to like come into this game and like want to stay, and it's like if they're trying to like get advice from people who are actually good, and these people are good, like they're not bad at the game, but their attitude just sucks. It's like it just kind of just ruins the it's what creates these stereotypes, you know what I mean? So
but DB especially people feel they're so entitled on DB. They're like, I'll message someone for a deck list. I remember this happened a couple years ago. I would message someone, they were like, yeah, for a donut code I'll send it to you. And I'm like, cool, I'll just spectate 20 of your matches and make the list. Like, cool, thank you.
Exactly. It's just like, it's so you know what the thing I mean, it comes down to sort of the cliche thing. It's like you don't have to say it to their face, right? You don't have to say it in person, or like you're not at an event. So I guarantee a lot of the things these people type out, they wouldn't go and like sit down in front of a person and say to their face, because it just wouldn't work, and so it's sort of that internet thing, I think, is the main thing. But yeah, so I guess back on the deck, So I run obviously the one called by.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of self-explanatory. The three cosmic. I mean the three cosmic for like the things I mentioned prior, like scythe. People always ran one back row, so I could always like out. The really good thing is like if I drew this, then I could out their blackout, and then I had no like sort of worries that if I drop the mine, like essentially if they have blackout, I can only sit on mine because I can't set other cards because they'll just destroy the mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially my only options were to wait for a second mystic mine and have the back row removal again so that I could like essentially drop the cosmic, they chain blackout, destroy both, and then I play my other mine, which was not great. And then I have the Chalice, so great going first, great going second card. Just
Yeah, Chalice is a dope
DP
card.
loves
Very
Chalice.
underrated.
Very underrated card, but it's such a good card. Droplets, that's sort of self-explanatory. This card is just so. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. It's such a good card. And for people who are new to the game too, it's like you can play a card and then use that card as cost. So you don't have to send like a card out of your hand. I know that like for people coming into the game, they might think that, but no, you can play like Cosmic and then Book and then chain droplets and then take those both off
Yeah, just
and
get rid of them for
nade
free,
on them
basically. Yeah.
for free, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's gross, but it's a great card. So we have the one instant fusion, great card in Prank Kids to go for the rocket.
Mm-hmm.
Wish it was at 3. It's never gonna happen.
No.
Um, uh, then we have the 3 Mystic Mine.
Yeah, we discussed that plenty.
Honestly, what people have a problem with is dealing with a meta deck and mine at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they like you are sort of you're dealing now. Oh, last format without Brave Engine Pranks was. I mean, I don't know what tier to put it. I was like, it tier 2 seemed too low. 1.5 was like, I guess 1.5 was like where I put it at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so essentially, it's like if you go off, you have double torrent with your butler, you have interruptions, you have this and that. So they're trying to deal with that, and then on top of that, you maybe you have a Mystic Mine in your hand as backup. It's
Mm-hmm.
like that's hard because now they're utilizing the resources to deal with your meta deck. They're
Mm-hmm.
not doing it to just out your mine, and so um, by the time you put mine on the field, like they've used up a lot, and so
Right.
they're having to draw into their out. And Pranks is really really good at recycling and sort of getting that advantage with Pranks. And then I kept the one Desires in because it's just a draw to, and essentially, like I said prior, like by the time I see this, I should have got my Brave Engine out already, so I don't really care about whatever else I banish.
Right.
So one was fine to
Mm-hmm.
me. I only run 2 Pandy. I've been off and on about this. I Because it's 60, the chances of me opening up 2 starters and a pandy is just not very likely.
Mm-hmm.
Like me opening up a starter is fine, but like I'd rather that pandy be like an interruption for now until I can like get off a guaranteed fusion. So when I put in the third pandy, it was like kind of this thing where like a lot of the times like I draw it, but I wouldn't be able to access my fusion. I'd just rather it be another card. So
Mm-hmm.
if 3's fine. Like you can easily put 3 in this. I just like 2 for whatever
Is that
reason.
the reason why you didn't
And
play polymerization as well? Because you would need 2 starters and the ratios of you seeing both would
yeah,
be
exactly.
very
And it's
low?
just so unlikely. Like
Okay.
it's not like if you open up double starter poly in 60, you're too good for me.
Right.
um
Fair.
so you know, and then I have the 3 place,
Mm-hmm.
with just 3 other starters essentially. I have the 2 pranks, just it made sense in 60 to run two. And then, if one gets eaten by a cosmic or whatever, or just I'm in a weird position or I banish it off. Desires was my prior, because I ran 3 desires, and if I banished one pranks off desires, it was just terrible. So that was my initial reasoning, but I just kept it at 2 because it was fine.
How about in 40?
And
I honestly want to know that. I run 1 and I only like 1, but what do you think about pranks in 40?
If you're not running the desires in 40, that's fine. I mean, you don't need more than 1 in 40. I don't think so.
Okay.
Like I would definitely wouldn't run 2 in 40. It just doesn't. You just don't. I don't think you need it, right? So, and then I run the set rotation, which is really good for funny thing about this card is like I've set this card quite a bit to avoid evenly. Funny enough, because like it's just like if I draw this, I'm going first, then it's third game. Because usually funny enough, I usually keep this thing in third game. Yeah. Just because it's just a mine backup, but it's also like my evenly safe haven because
true.
You can essentially, if they go BP, then you're like, okay, set rotation, and they can't use evenly that turn.
Right.
So,
Imagine.
Which is
did you do that
annoying
to anyone?
for them.
That must feel
I've done it
horrible.
multiple times. I've done it multiple times. It's funny. It's really, really funny too because well, it's like I'm so evenly hurts. Like I think with this deck in particular, Elstorm and evenly hurt. But which is why I'll get into my side deck obviously, but I have answers for that. But it was just like I was so tired of I don't know, set rotation is just nice to have when they say BP, because I'm like, okay, you can go BP, no worries.
Yeah, I'm good. It's fine.
But yeah, and then the terraforming, obviously,
of course,
another starter essentially, or mine. We had the double talents.
So double.
I didn't run 3 because, well, 1, I just felt I don't have room essentially because I won everything else. And I have this love-hate relationship with talents as well. So I just like, because sometimes it's just completely dead.
Yeah,
but other
feel
times, like,
a lot of times.
Right? It's just like, and then the other thing is like with the Brave engine, I just don't know. I just felt like it was overkill. Like it's essentially this thing where it's like if I put out my Griffin, and then they opt to use their imperm during my turn on Griffin, and they wouldn't do that because it wouldn't make sense. They'd use it on their turn. And they're not going to just drop the Veiler for no reason. So I mean they could, but to force out the Griffin, I guess. But it just seemed like a bit of overkill to have the Brave engine and triple talents that just to my liking.
Okay.
And then we have the 3 imp Imperience. It's essentially the only hand trap I run, and the only reason I kind of run it is because it's just kind of like it's kind of like a chalice, because I don't have to. It's obviously different from Veiler, where I don't have to like use it on their turn. I can essentially drop this on my turn and just like force a negate. And then we have the Metaverse, which is really gross for getting out mine. Don't hate me, chat or community, please. I already get that a lot. And then we have the triple Solemn Judgment. Okay, so this is to protect the mine, and
okay,
it's the only going second card I run.
Going first, you
Going
mean?
first card I
Yeah.
run, sorry. Going first, sorry. Yeah, going first. Because I am not a fan at all of going first cards, but the only reason that I felt this was necessary was because if I get them locked under mine, with the recycling and me drawing two all the time and the dodo ad and things like that, I thin out my deck quite fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, I want, I'm trying to put this as least toxic as possible, but
No,
there's
it
no other
makes
way to put it.
sense.
I
Just
want to
go ahead
know that I
and put
can
it as
just
in
sit
any
on
way that you
mine.
want. I love that you have a reasoning for that. Like it makes sense because I'm not a fan of going first cards either. Like if your deck goes first anyway, then it's just like you're, I guess, overdoing it, and it's like a win more type of thing. So I was wondering
Right.
why you're maining it, and I like that you have the reason. So please put it as toxic as possible, if that's how it is.
Okay. I want to know essentially that I can just sit on mine and win.
Okay, I mean that's fair.
You know, um, that's about it because you're always in that sort of you're always in kind of that headspace if you don't have the solemn that do they main the cosmic, right, or do they main the importer, or do they main the whatever it may be, right? And so it was just kind of one of those things where it's like if I thin out my deck and draw this, I know I have a game. So
Right.
um
Okay.
that's the main reason for it. Uh, I know there's people definitely have opinions about this, but I just it's always been very very helpful to have this in my deck. So
Okay.
And then we have the Brave Engine here. We have the 3 Enchantress, the 3 Right, the Faithful Adventure, the Griffin, and the Draco back.
Right.
Now, this is pretty simple. Like this is pretty like standard.
Of course.
The only thing is, and I'm not gonna do it, but there's so many times where I wish I had a second Draco back in my deck, because God, I would have won so many more games. Because it's just like when people have the correct interruptions and you still have your faithful on field, then that sort of just Draco back return. Like there was a game where I played where it's like if I had that second Draco back, I could have returned Zeus or forced out the Zeus essentially, and so forced him to use Zeus, and it's just like I don't know. Draco back's kind of just like this really. It's such a good equip spell.
Yeah.
Because it's not target any monster on the field. It's just target any card.
Yeah,
which
when
I
its
just find
card is
ridiculous.
way, way better, of course.
Yeah. So
what did you run before you ran
that's
Brave?
it for the main.
That's
Huh?
What did you run before you ran Brave?
So before I ran Brave,
I mean,
I
obviously
was
the Desires
on.
probably, right? Still two more.
Yeah. So I double Desires. I had the third Talents. I had 3 MST. What did I have else?
Pandemonium, I guess, if you mentioned it before.
No, I didn't have the third Pandy. I had let me see. Actually, I can pull it up really quick. Oh, I had Reasoning because I could use Reasoning for Prank Kids as another extender because Reasoning doesn't work in Brave because I don't want to hit Enchantress because it just doesn't help me at all. Griffin. And then I had 2 more going first cards, which I was actually really glad to take out. I had 2 strikes, which I mean, like,
Yeah.
it was. I don't know. I mean, it was not terrible for the fact that when I wanted to clear off my Mystic Mine and I had strike set, I didn't have to worry about Nibiru. But overall, I just don't like going first cards all that much at all.
Right.
Like,
how do you feel about hand traps moving forward to this format that we're currently entering, I guess, starting today or tomorrow? For me, it's midnight already, so today. Because I can see you only
I
have
don't
like
like
straight
them.
going second cards.
Yeah, besides the Empyreans, if you kind of count that, no, I just don't like them. I don't find them helpful going into this format, and I've been sort of on this message since the beginning of this format, where it's like, but it's even like more emphasized by the fact we have Brave Engines coming out. A lot of times, if you have the Veiler or the Imp or whatever, let's just take Veiler. You are like, because the format's so aggressive, you are essentially like, a lot of times it can still break through and get a pretty heavy board out even with a Veiler Neg. And if you're talking about high impact hand traps like Nib and Lancia and Droll, you it's always a shot in the dark, especially now that we're having probably Brave Elvish and things like that come out, whether or not they're going to be live. And I'm not a fan of guessing what's going to work or what's going to pop off and what's not. Having any amount of dead cards in your hand with a format like this is just, you're putting yourself at such a heavy disadvantage. And so you having a Droll or Lancia or Nib you can't use.
Okay.
I'd rather that be an interruption that I know that's most of the time going to pop off. And or at least force out the how do I put this? That's going to force out an egg. So, and I guess my other problem is just like, I don't have to worry about drawing droplets or eclipse or anything like this as my 6th card. That 6 hand trap draw, which
it's a feels
sucks.
bad moment, yeah.
It's a feels bad moment for sure. So I don't know. I'm kind of just like, for me, hand traps I think are gonna start teetering out, because again, people don't want to play the guessing game. B, it's that, not that it happens often, but it's a 6 draw. And then A, I think the primary reason is like, I mean, with the Brave package, you essentially have to open up double hand trap, right? Unless, because Imp and Veiler, you can hold the Imp for next turn to force the Griffin, that's fine. Veiler, if you just open one Veiler, I mean, you're not, it's not a great position.
Of course.
Like the amount of times that when I ran Ash, and let's just take Fan Knights for example, it's like, what do I drop the Ash on? So if I drop the Ash on, one of their Phantom Knights, I mean, that's probably not going to help me. And so they're going to probably, regardless of me having my Ash, still end on DP.
Yeah, and at that point you're just hand looping yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'd rather they just make their board and then I have the Eclipse, right? Or I have the Droplets, or I have, the Chalice even, or whatever. Because I just don't, for the mine, right? Because at that point, I just know what I need to deal with at the end of the day, right? And so that's just kind of my thing with hand traps.
Okay.
But we'll see what happens. Like I really do believe that hand traps are going to teeter out this format quite a bit, unless we have a whole bunch of people maining Droll, which could happen too. But I just
of course, and it should also be pointed out that it's very much dependent on where you're at. What's your meta over there, and if not a lot of people are gonna be even on a Brave engine, like just chill and change your deck. Like, it's no big deal. You need to look at your personal meta and where you're from and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. So we also have so for the side deck we have the 1 Pranker Tops. Just a great generic going second card. the just big beater pops. Now the interesting thing we have here, we have the 3 Blizzard. Okay, this card is, I feel like it's just so underrated because, okay, so the thing with this is that the format obviously is very aggressive, and so if you have, let's say, and this especially works well in pranks. So if they try to cosmic you, right, for example, or whatever, you can obviously chain this. If they try to L-storm you, you can chain this. So people are essentially on the fact about, like, oh, but it's nay because you return it to hand, like the Fusion Destiny or whatever. It's like, you're going to win next turn, most likely anyway, because you have really the only thing that this deck in particular cares about is like L-storm and Duster and things like that, like huge just destroyers. And you probably have other interruptions as well because you just forced out an L-storm or Harpies or whatever Fusion Destiny. And so you end on you're sitting on like 3 pranks on the field, right? And so you can essentially, with 2 Bow Wow in the extra, you can play around Nibiru in with 3 pranks on the field by linking 2 off for Dodo, summoning out 2, summoning Bow Wow to point to the 3rd prank for game. And so it's yeah, so that's also the reason why I run 2 Bow Wow, because it's for essentially for the that situation that comes up a lot. And so I just like, if they get the Fusion Destiny back on hand, well, whoop-de-doo, because they probably won't live to see it next turn. Okay. So it's just a good card because it just negs any spell, like any spell. So and also those weird situations where, like, it's not common obviously, but if they open up like double L Storm and you drop this instead of like judgmenting it or whatever, or you have a pointer and you take their 1 L Storm out of hand, but they have another, is like they can't use that other L Storm that turn.
I mean, they like, can, but it's just gonna get negated. So L for them.
Exactly, they can. Go ahead. Please do it. Go ahead and use it, but please do it. But it will be negated. So just a really good card. I really feel when I go first, 3rd game and open this, I just feel safe. Like I just feel like I'm really, really feel safe. The other thing is the only other thing I'll say is it also stops droplets, chalice, all these other cards that neg your butler. So it also protects your butler too. So the other thing is exchange. Okay, this card, it hurts that I don't see more people running this card.
I love this card. I used to run this like a lot, and then I was just like, it's not that great. And then I would switch something.
Why? No, so okay, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, all right? So you, especially if in pranks, okay, but like in any combo deck, like take Phantom Knights, take anything, okay? Sword Soul, it doesn't really matter. You need 2 cards, right? Essentially to go off. Pranks 1, whatever. If you start your combo, or you just play the mons you need face up, and then let's say you have a lamps in hand or whatever, and you set that lamps, summon it face up and attack, and then set the cards you don't want them to have, and then just exchange. Okay?
Yeah.
You're pulling out a hand trap. You know their hand, so you know how to like work your next turn, their turn, and you're giving them like, it's not a neg because, like, for example, if a Phantom Knights player gives a Sword Soul player a silent boots, what are they going to do with the silent boots? They're going to do absolutely nothing with the silent boots. So it's like, sure, you just technically, you know, if you're counting the cards, you went neg 1, but you really didn't. And you just like knowing your opponent's hand is so strong, but not only knowing, but being able to take any card out of their hand. It's just like every time I open this going third game first, I like 90% of the time win my games. Like it's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous card. I know not every deck could probably run this, because there's also the very realistic interaction that you run a lot of hand traps, and then you don't want to like essentially play exchange and then like, oh, here's my hand trap, let me take your
let me give
trap.
it to you. Like, it's just stupid. Yeah, you need to have something that you can set and get rid of your hand, essentially.
Exactly. So there's that, but I mean, overall, like, the card is just like, if you go full combo and take your opponent's hand trap
and look at their hand to see what
and look
you
at their
should
hand,
disrupt.
I mean,
that's
you
wild.
better win that game.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
You know, so the next card is Duster. Just good for like just a good like just very self-explanatory. Just breaks all spells and traps. L-Storm, same thing, very good. All I don't know how expensive L-Storm is nowadays. I think it's gone down definitely from its
with the
heights,
reprint,
but,
I think it has. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then Triple Evenly and the Red Reboot. So I run. If people notice, I put a considerable amount of my side deck for backrow removal. And I have to do that because when you're running 60, you want to see them, and if you start trying to like, because people allocate a lot of their side deck to hand traps and things like that, but that's not going to help me all that much if I am playing if I'm playing like against floodgates. And so I just wanted to be able to see them, and with this amount I usually end up seeing one, so which is good.
What about Skill Drain and There Can Only Be One? Like, two very popular cards in prank kids.
So it goes back to my whole thing of hating going first cards.
I figured, yeah.
And if I'm going to play going first cards, I guess like I already have the Solemn Judgment in there, so like that's already 3, and then I just felt like I'd rather draw an exchange than a TCBOO, for example. Or I'd rather draw a Blizzard than a TCBOO or Skill Drain, because I just felt like, I don't know, like, I'm not saying they're bad cards at all. It's just, I just felt it was kind of overkill to have that. I couldn't even fit it in my side because I wouldn't even know what to take out. Because I kind of just need everything in there, and then having it in the main deck, I just can't deal with going first cards. I just, with the amount of times I lose the dice roll anyway, I just like,
yeah, that's one thing.
I just would probably just move on to game 2,
Okay.
But that's just my reason. I know some people main it. No,
I totally get what you mean. I always look at it this way: like, I would much rather play my deck than make my opponent not play their deck, because I'm not playing either if I don't have my cards. Like, that's just how it is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, don't get me wrong, I would run them if I knew that I was gonna essentially, like, Elish would be tier 0 if they won every rock, paper, scissors, right? I just,
yes.
I don't, I feel like if I open up TCBOO and, essentially if I put them in, I would have 9 going first cards. So if I win the dice, if I lose the dice roll, then they have their full combo. and more than likely the floodgates are going to be popped by the DPE, and then like popped by Rusty, and it just is a mess, like in my opinion. But
also with you,
the
before
same
we
thing I
move
kind
on
of
to
said
the
about like
extra
a lot of people main deck IO.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
I mean, IO is
oh
not a
no,
thing
it's
anymore,
fine.
thankfully.
Yeah. So, um,
No, what I wanted to
I
ask you
just
before we move on is how do you feel about DPE in prank kits? That's the only thing I wanted to touch upon also when it comes to the main deck.
so let's see. DPE and prank kids. Like funny enough, I had a version that I built that inserted DPE. I forget what I took out of this. But I essentially had the double fusion destiny in there and the Dasher and Celestial.
Mm-hmm.
Did I take out? I'm looking at it right now. I took out oh yeah, that's right. I took out all the judgments and I took out a I took out the judgments and I took out some other card. I think a pranks or something like that. So I had one pranks and I took out the judgments and I put in the DP package. I tested that. I don't know. It's how do I put this? I hate opening up Dasher. I hate opening up Dasher. I hate opening up Celestial. And again, going back to that calculus, I was actually surprised by this, but even having two in 60, the Celestial and Dasher, it's still a 15% chance to open one of them.
Okay.
Which is kind of nuts to me. But I don't know, with the Brave engine and the DP package, like it's great if you get interrupted and then you can link off your token for Link Spider and then maybe a pranks to go, or your whatever Meow or something to go into Verte and then dump DPE, so at least you have something. But I just like I don't have like too big of an issues against it. I just rather have as least amount of like cards I don't want to draw in my deck as possible. But like you could easily run it. But I don't know. Like, yeah, again, I have no qualms against it. It's just it's to each their own.
Okay.
But I just don't run it, I guess.
Cool. So I just thought of another question. I'm sorry if I'm being annoying at this point, but how do you feel
no,
about...
no. I'm sorry. I think I keep interrupting too, so it's my bad.
No.
It's just like...
It's all good. I'm just honestly very passionate about prank kits, so I don't want to forget anything. So I want to know, what do you think about Thunder Dragon Fusion?
Oh, it's so good you bring this up. Okay.
Yes. Cool.
Because I had this it was like a heated debate about it, but essentially
debate. Okay.
A heated debate about Thunder Dragon Fusion. Okay. Funny enough, it was against the team that I mentioned.
The team you're beefing with. Okay.
Yes. And I was like, they were like, you don't have to think, you have to put this in. I'm like, I mean, I've been off and on about it, but okay, here's my thing with Thunder Dragon Fusion. Is like, it's not a bad card, okay? It's not. Like, it essentially, it gets out the Butler, the Verte and Butler, returns your pranks, which is good recycling, and adds Fansies next turn. The only issue I have with it is that in order to use it, I have to get my combo started. So, and if I'm getting my combo started, I'm pretty confident anyway, unless I run into Nibiru. And if I run into Nibiru, then I add the pranks first, so at least I can just recycle back the Meow, and it's not terrible, it's not great, but I'm not in a position where I'm like utterly concerned that, especially since I run mine and everything, that I'm in this terrible, terrible position. So like it helps. It's like it just seems to me like it's not necessary, but it can be used. But I just don't use it. Again, I don't think it's like a terrible
No,
card,
I
or
like
like
it.
I'm
I'm
not gonna.
currently running it, but like,
Yeah, like I'm not gonna. If people want to run it, that's absolutely fine.
mhm.
It's kind of to each their own thing. I just I guess I just don't,
Mhm.
because I just figure, you know, again, it just kind of goes back to that thing where I just want to draw cards that I know I can use right away. And I think the biggest problem is that getting the combo off is the biggest problem in the first place. So, um, especially if you lose dice roll, and then uh, if you get ashed, unless I guess it's now more consistent with the Brave package, but if you get ashed, it's like your Thunder Dragon Fusion is not going to be extremely helpful. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
um,
Fair, fair. Okay.
it's just one of those things. But yeah, I hope that could answer your question.
It did. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Um, and so for the extra deck, we have two Butler. So I run two Butler because there's a lot of times where I can get double pandy,
Mhm.
and especially if I open up the pranks, obviously, or or one pandy. So with the Brave package, it really works nicely because in the past, before the Brave package, I would still put double Butler in my extra, but it used up a lot of resources. It was sort of like this last emergency effort if I
Mhm.
needed to,
Mhm.
because either I was going to lose if I don't get the double Butler out, or I get the double Butler out, eat all my resources, but still have a chance to like sort of recycle and come back, right?
Right.
Um, and but with the Brave package, if you use up one Butler and have to use and are forced to use the second Butler, uh, the Brave package sort of guarantees that you have follow up regardless if you use up all those resources, right? So
Mhm.
it's just I found a lot at the time it was really cool to have the second Butler because they would droplets my first one, and then I'd be like, okay, fine, and then I get out the second one, right? So
Okay.
um, helped a lot. Um, double rockets. Uh, the only reason, like, you don't have to run double rockets. The thing is, to me, it just provides some sort of security because
Mhm.
this deck sort of focuses on the mind loop a lot, and so if they find some way, like in Sky Strikers or something, to just banish your rockets,
Mhm.
um, it just makes the game last a lot longer than you would like if you're able to burn them with just Lampsies, which is like usually extremely difficult.
Mhm.
And the other thing is that there's times it happened where I'd have my instant fusion and then realize I already used my rocket, and
Oh, okay.
then I'm like, oh shoot, well that sucks, right? And so um, that's kind of the only reason I run two. But you don't have to. You could replace it with something else, but I just like having it there just so I don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Um, then we have the washer. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Right.
And then the access code, Phoenix, Unicorn. Um, please, people, run your nightmares and pranks. Don't make me, don't make me visit. It's like, a lot of people don't run the night, like the Phoenix or something. I I don't know. I feel like it's there's times where obviously I could just go straight to the unicorn to the access, but it's just nice to have as like
No, it's so
this.
nice. And then you co-link it with Doodle and you also draw and it's like it's just
Exactly.
so
Thank you.
wholesome. I know. I
It's
love
just a
Phoenix.
wholesome. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And people like just listen to us, guys. Listen to us. Just run your Phoenix. All right.
It's so funny
Put your
because
Phoenix in.
in the last video I made, so the last one on my channel that just went live like yesterday or something, I'm emphasizing how much I love Phoenix. And it's just such a good card. Like it really is.
Yeah. No, it is. It's like it just makes for a very balanced extra deck, guys. Like you'll feel good. Like when you start like going off on that third turn or whatever, and you're like, shoot, what do I link these two mons into? You're gonna look at your extra deck and be like, I have the Phoenix, right?
Yeah, you have utility.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's just great. And then I run 2 Bow Wow. A lot of people don't run 2 Bow Wow, but I run 2 Bow Wow because of sort of what I explained before,
Right.
is that I can avoid the Nibiru if I have 3 pranks and then an extra Bow and Grave. So it's just really, really nice to do. And then 3 Dodo, pretty self-explanatory. The 1 Meow, please bring Meow back to 2. It's hurting my heart, actually. Like that. Or 3, like no, not even bring back to 2 because it was never at 2. Okay,
Yeah, just
if they just, I don't even need 3, just give me 2 and I'll be so happy. like
so what do you think
they
about
don't
Meow
understand.
at this point? Like what would be a couple, I guess, pointers to give to people, or what do you like to do? Do you waste it? Do you recycle it? What do you feel about when people like run Nemesis Corridor, stuff like that?
Sorry, I missed your last part of your question.
I asked about the card. I think it's Nemesis Corridor, right? The one that returns it from the banish zone.
Oh,
to run
I don't know actually. You could be on. I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry.
It's the
Like
green Nemesis card
Nemesis.
that, like, I guess returns the banished monster.
Oh,
And people
right.
hype how that should be running pranks, but it's too bricky for my liking. And I was wondering what you like to do with your Meow Meow, and how do you like to, I guess, when do you waste it or when do you recycle it?
So it's gonna hurt a lot. Probably gonna like hurt some people's, because people like, this is like, it's funny you bring this up because there's like people there's like 2 types of people. There's the people who recycle their meow, and there's the people who just like sack off their meow, like banish it, right? And so I'm the banisher side. Like the amount of times I recycle my meow is like, unless I get, like, if I get interrupted, then of course I'm gonna recycle it. But if I have my full combo and like at the end of my turn I use pranks, I never return my meow. Because I get punished for it. So I've done it in the past, and I just get punished after punishment after punishment for it.
Okay.
Because it's like it's just, the format's so aggressive, and it's like you just almost need the double torrent in order to stop plays. So you know, your meow is not going to help you in your extra if you die next turn. So
no, I get it, and it's also very situational, of course. But yeah,
it's situational, of course. Yeah. Too. I've never run Nemesis Corridor.
No, I haven't as well, but I've seen people sort of hype the card, and I was just like, you know, it's too, I don't know, it's too bricky.
It seems a little bit bricky.
Like, because at the end of the day, your deck at this point, I think at least, it's not like Meow Meow reliant, if that makes sense. Like, if you're going full combo on your first turn, then on turn 3, you'll already have enough pranks to go into everything else but the Meow. Like, you don't specifically need it. And
and pranks allows you to do that too, like, because you just discard the pranks and just go off.
Of course, yeah.
But obviously, you know, it would be nice to have the Meow, but
of course,
the second one. But
of course,
I'll write a letter to Konami about it.
Dope.
And then we have the Roaster. Just obviously such a good card for like dealing with back row decks, and with the, it's funny enough, with the Brave engine, it was always a very risky play to sort of go for the combo where you go into Dodo and then have, like, if you have another Pranks in hand, use the Pandy to go for Rocket, and then, summon out Bow and then link those off a Roaster, then Rocket, bring out Bow and Dodo, and have that sort of lineup, because
Right.
it just gets punished really hard if you, like, they wait to imp your Rocket, essentially, right? So, like, literally you're sitting on Roaster and you didn't get to use Bow or
Right.
Dodo.
I mean, but at this point, you're sort of
or,
facing experienced players. If they're seeing your plays and then waiting to imp Rocket, that's like next level play.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you essentially you'd run into it if, like, you went competitively or something
Of
like
course,
that.
yeah.
But now with Brave Engine, it's like you don't really care about being reckless all that much. So if I have it, I'm gonna just do it, because it's like, okay, well, either you have the imp nib or you don't.
That's
so
fair.
so that was cool. I guess not cool because I don't even want these things anyway, but it is what it is.
I mean,
I
it
guess.
helps out, of course.
Yeah, it helps out. So that's a rundown of the deck. People, I know a lot of people, like, because, like, I'll send it to friends in, like, Discord and things like that, and they tried it out and they really liked it. But yeah, it works. It works very well. I was relatively surprised because I just kind of, like, this has been a lot of, like, taking out cards, putting back in cards, and just trying to figure out what works. But eventually I got it to work, and yeah, it's a really good deck. And just excited for the next format. So yeah.
Cool. Well, cool. Thank you. Overall, thank you for deciding to sort of do this video for my channel, because this has been like a good hour of solid info, which me and my viewers are very much grateful for. But
Yeah, no problem. I hope I didn't go too long. I kind of, like, have a problem of, like, cutting myself off sometimes.
no, but like, at the end of the day, the people that wanted to see your deck, they will just click in the middle of the video, pause, look at it, and go away. So the people that wanted to listen, listened. So there's that. That's how I view
Very
those
true.
types of videos when you have the DB screenshot. Like, people do whatever they want and everything's cool.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Alrighty,
All right.
well, to wrap things
I
up,
was really
do you
glad to
have
do this
any...
video, and thank you for all of the great questions and things like that too.
I appreciate that. Thank you, seriously, for joining me. And you mentioned, I don't know if you stream, or you mentioned some type of streaming before. Do you have any, like, things you want to plug as we wrap this video up?
Oh no, I just go on other people's
Oh, you
streams
participate.
and just
Okay.
just participate. Yeah.
Cool.
So just looking around always at the community, seeing what's going off, and I come across your channel and was like, she really likes prank kids, so maybe, like,
I do.
like, you really like prank kids, so I was like, that's super cool. So I was like, oh, maybe she'd want to do a video or something like that.
Dope. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And for all of you watching, if you like this video, which honestly I'm sure you did, he gave a ton of important info. So make sure to give this video a like. Also give me a sub. Check out Discord and Twitch. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.